This week we'll be starting with Autodesk Revit 2014, and we're going to be working from this floor plan that you can find within Desire to Learn. If you'd like to pull that up, you're definitely going to need that to reference as you work. And just a couple things just as we get started. If you run into some issues as you're working, feel free to email me. I'll do my best to get back with you as soon as I can. I should be fairly connected at the conference, so again, you're welcome to shoot me an email if something comes up. Also, I highly recommend that don't try to keep up with the video as the video is made. I'm moving maybe a little quicker than you might necessarily be able to work, and so that's the pause button would allow you to pause the recording the video at any point in time. Obviously you can rewind, you can go back and watch it again. So I highly recommend that you take the time to work your way through the video at your pace and don't try to keep up, because I think if you do, you might just get frustrated. But I hope the video works out, that helps you get through this first part. And keep in mind that this is week 1 of the floor plan exercise. There's week 2, which we'll do next week. Week 1, the focus is solely on the walls, doors, and windows. So you do not need to worry about any of these fixtures, the bathtubs, the toilets, the sinks. You don't need to worry about any of the cabinetry, casework, anything like that, any of the dimensions or the labels. All of that will come in week 2 of the floor plan exercise. So for this week, focus completely on the walls, doors, and windows. Again, the walls are going to be 6-inch windows. The walls are going to be 6-inch walls for the exterior or the perimeter of the plan, and they're going to be 4.5-inch interior walls for the interior walls that you'll see. The exception would be in the garage, where the inside walls of the garage are still the 6-inch generic walls, and you'll see that in a moment here when we get started in the walls section. So wish you the best of luck, and again, shoot me an email if anything comes up, if you get stuck. The email's in Desire to Learn, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Alright, let's begin by starting a new project within Autodesk Revit 2014. To do that, we'll use this icon right here, which allows us to choose New for our project. And this brings up a window asking us for a template file. I highly recommend using a template file for all projects. For this project in particular, we're going to use a residential default template, because the project that we're doing obviously is a house, and the default template will preload a variety of walls, components, doors, windows that are specific to residential architecture. So we definitely want to use this template to get started. I'll go ahead and choose it and click Open, and then click OK. And now Revit will open up. And as it opens, you'll notice right away some similarities with AutoCAD. If you're familiar with AutoCAD, being an Autodesk product, obviously there are going to be some similarities. The ribbon across the top, as well as the tabs that adjust the ribbon to show you various commands as you work. The majority of what we will do will be under the Architecture tab, although we will take some time with some of the other tabs as well. Top left corner is the application menu that you're probably familiar with at this point as well, but this is where we can also start a new project, open an existing project, save, export, print. So that's the application menu that you might want to be familiar with if you're not already. On the left hand side, we see the Properties panel. And the Properties panel gives us information about whatever object or component might be selected on the screen at the time. Below the Properties panel, we have the Project Browser that shows us the list of all the various views, and in this case, all of these views came preloaded because we started with the residential default template. If you started with a different template, you might not necessarily see these same views. Let's begin by taking a look at wall construction, how to develop walls in our Revit model. And the first thing to note is the bottom left corner, we see the option of setting the scale. And in order to set the scale for this project, we're going to go ahead and change it to 1/8 inch equals 1 foot. And you'll notice right away that the pointers that you see on the screen adjusted in size, and that's based upon the scale. Each of these refer to an elevation, and so we're going to leave those there. You don't want to delete those, and it also means that we want to try to draw within these 4 arrows. Now they can be moved, we can adjust them, but to start we're going to try to draw within the space of those 4 arrows. So under the Architecture tab, you'll see the wall icon, and if I click the wall icon, the Properties panel will adjust, and it will tell me right away that I'm looking at a basic wall, generic 6 inch. That's the wall type that we're going to start with. Down the road, we can change to a different wall type that's specific to our exterior walls. You'll also see the options bar appear, and the options bar allows us to set the height of the wall. In this case, I'm going to change this to 9 feet, and the location line, and I'd like to use the finish face exterior to draw the outside walls around the perimeter of this plan. So the plan that we're using is this plan here, and this allows us to just take a look at the basic perimeter of the house. We want to draw around the outside of the house here. So as I begin to draw these walls, follow along with that plan to help you know the dimensions. I'm ready to start, and I'm going to start in the top left corner of the plan, and I want to draw the walls clockwise around the perimeter of the house. So if I go ahead and I click and drag, you'll see that the wall will lock on to horizontal, and at this point I can simply enter 20 feet. Now I don't actually need to type in the foot mark. Default units in Revit are feet, whereas in AutoCAD it's inches. So if I just type in 20 and hit enter, it'll draw my wall 20 feet to the right. Now I'm going to come down 10 feet, and then to the right. Again, make sure that it locks on to horizontal. Another 20 feet. I'll come straight down, a total of 37 feet. And again, all these dimensions are on the drawing. To the left, 14. And now I need to put that little jog in for the front door. There's a small alcove there. So it actually goes up 4, and then back to the left 6, and then down 11. Take that back. It's going to be 11 plus the 4 to go all the way to the front of the garage. So let's go down 15. And then back to the left across the front of the garage where the garage door will be is 20, and then we should be able to go back up to where we started, and you'll notice that it will snap back to that starting point. So just to see this, if you hit escape a couple times, that will exit out of the wall command, and you can see the walls that we've created. Now let's talk a little bit about navigating on the screen around the drawing. If you roll the wheel forward and backwards, you're going to obviously zoom. similar to AutoCAD. If you hold down the wheel, you're going to pan. The drawing's going to move back and forth for you. And we can also go to our default 3D view. So there's a shortcut here, and you'll also find it over in your project browser. If you scroll down, you'll see it here. If I go to the default 3D view, I can see that the walls that I've developed have obviously a thickness but also a height. And once I'm in this view, same thing with navigating. Roll the wheel back and forth to zoom in and out. Hold down the wheel to pan. And then an orbit is to hold down the shift key and then hold down the wheel and move your mouse, and you can orbit around the 3D model. Let's go ahead and move back to the first floor view. And I want to go ahead and start taking a look now at interior walls. For some reason, Autodesk has set up the development of interior walls a little bit different as far as how you track from a point, and it can be a little confusing, it can be a little bit difficult, but let's take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump up here to the wall command once again, and in this case, instead of using the generic 6-inch, I'm going to change to an interior 4.5-inch partition. The height of that wall is going to be the same as the exterior wall, so we'll put it back to 9 feet. And now the thing to keep in mind is, as far as the location line goes, the majority of the dimensions on the plan are set up so that they are dimensioned to the exterior face, but the interior center line. So to locate our interior walls, we're going to put it on wall center line, and then we're going to have to do a little math in our head as we draw these. So let's look at the first wall between the master bedroom and the master bath. The dimension on the plan, I can zoom in for this here, the dimension on the plan is set to 5 foot 9 inches from the exterior face to the wall center line. But if I go to draw that wall within Revit, I'd like to try to hover over this outside point. And similar to what we did in AutoCAD, we could track. So if I start to drag to the right, it would track from that point. Unfortunately, Revit won't track from that outside corner. It will only track from the center line now. And so what I need to do is I need to track from the center line and do the math in my head. The exterior wall is 6 inches. I know that I need to subtract then 3 inches as I track to the right. So I'm going to type in 5 foot 6, enter, and there's the placement on that first wall. So if I drag this wall down now it is tracking from the outside face. So you really have to pay attention. Where is it tracking from? What's the dimension I need? Do I need to make any modifications to that dimension? So this wall is supposed to come down 6 foot 8. I'll go ahead and draw that back out to the outside wall. So keep working through the interior walls, looking at the plan, checking the dimension, and then working to track from there. So in the next case here, I need to come down from that center line, 6 foot 4, and then I'm going to line back up with the wall above. you'll notice right away, hit escape a couple times to get out of the wall command, you'll notice right away that as you're drawing these walls, it's automatically trimming up these connections or these joints, which is a really nice feature. So you can continue to work through creating these interior walls throughout the plan. There are some places where you might find it's a little bit of a challenge to find them. Pay attention to the dimensions on the drawing. Take a look at whether the dimension is coming from the inside face, the center line. Here's another one to the inside face. In some places you'll notice that they go to points. So this is to that corner. This one's back to the center line. This one here is also to the corner. Just note that, pay attention to it. Any angled wall is 45 degrees. The angles are probably the most challenging part of the plan, but just do your best to get them laid out. Ultimately, I will say I would not worry about getting every wall placed exactly within a fraction of an 1/8 inch, of a 1/16 of an inch of a fraction. We're looking more at more whole numbers. As long as you're within that realm, I think we'll be in good shape. Alright, I've gone ahead and added a few more interior walls, but I've left some of them unedited or in need of editing, just to show you a little bit more how to kind of customize the placement of the walls, how to edit wall locations, because I have a feeling that once you start to work on some of these interior walls, it does get frustrating. Probably the most difficult part of learning Revit to begin with is working from an existing plan and needing to try to get the walls specific to the same size as the plan that you've been given, which is exactly what you're doing in this case. It is something though that understand that once you have done it for a little while and you get the hang of it, it starts to make more sense, and ultimately the whole process that Revit uses is a huge time saver relative to using a program like AutoCAD. So to begin with, one of the things that I'd like to show is the trim and extend option. So for instance, if I select this wall right here, and I'm going to come up here to the ribbon, and I'm going to choose trim extend to corner. So this works a little different than AutoCAD. When we do a trim in Revit, we are going to select the parts of the walls that we would like to keep. In this case, I want to keep this part of the wall down here, and I will obviously want to keep this wall here, and it will trim that wall back. Over here, I want to keep here, and I want to keep here, so it trimmed it back. Now, I'll go ahead and use it one more time for this wall here and here. But I also want to show that just like in AutoCAD, when I click on an object, I get grips. Now in AutoCAD we see squares, in Revit we see circles, but I can grab that grip and I can drag. I can pull it back just like I did in AutoCAD. Another wall editing command that we can use is the split element tool. For instance, here on the fireplace, I have an area where I need to get rid of this section of the wall. So what I can do is, if I click on that wall, I can come up to the split element tool. And by using that, it gives me what looks to be kind of like an X-Acto knife. And I can come in and I can place a line on the wall to make divisions for it. looks like in this case. I can then just click back on it, on that middle section of the wall, and delete it. Now, you do have to be careful, because you might be able to see that there's a little bump there. Sometimes it doesn't work as clean as you'd like it to. One of the things I would recommend is if you just go ahead and drag the wall beyond where it needs to be. And now let's go back and use our trim command to trim the wall back, and it'll clean it up. I'll do the same thing over here. So there's that split element for the fireplace area. Now there's one other area that I wanted to do this with, and that is down here in the kitchen area. I don't quite have this completely set up yet, but I do want to show that right now this wall is shown all as one wall. However, if you look at the plan will show that the wall becomes a half wall around the kitchen sink area. And so this is another place where I'd want to use the split element tool. I'll go ahead and select that, split the wall right there, and now to change this wall I can come over to the properties area and change the height here from 9 feet to 3'6". And it'll show different, and it shows different because the cutting plane, that 3'6" height, is below the 4-foot cutting plane. And then same thing would need to be done over here, where I've got the wall that's at the end of the counter and cabinets in the corner here, and then this area here would need to drop down to the 3'6" as well. I'll let you do that on your own, and the next section I'll be going over doors and windows. Now that you have most of your walls in place, we need to take a look at how to add doors and windows. I want to begin with doors, and specifically we're going to start with the front door. It's probably one of the easier doors to place, and so to start to place that door, I'm going to go to the Architecture tab, and you'll see right below that the door icon. I'll go ahead and click on that. And similar to what has happened when we clicked on walls in the past, we'll see that the properties panel does change. There's a pull down that lists a variety of doors available to us. Again, these doors are loaded in because we started with the residential default template, so they're preloaded. And many of the doors that we need are in the list already, but there's certainly some doors that are not, and I'll show you how to get to those doors as well. But in this case, the front door is the single raised panel with side lights, and we're going to use the 36 by 80 inch door. So go ahead and select that door, and now if you come over to your project, you'll see that as you place the mouse, the crosshair, onto a wall in the location of the front door, it'll give you some dimensions. In this case right now it's showing 3 foot by 3 inches in each direction. So we want to try to center that door within that opening, and that helps us to do that. I'll go ahead and click and place the door. And now I get these arrows, and the arrows, both horizontal and vertical, they allow me to change the swing and the direction of the door. So in this case, I need to flip the door by hitting the horizontal so that it moves to swing that direction. I could also hit the vertical, and obviously then it would swing to the outside, which is not what we want. So I'll go ahead and put that back. But the front door is pretty easy to put in there. I will point out that once it's placed, I can also click here on one of these dimensions. So if I didn't get it placed centered on that wall, I could change this dimension by saying, well, maybe I need this to be 3'1", and it would move that door over. A nice tool, and in many cases what I tend to do is just drop the door in somewhere close, and then I'll go back and edit the door to get it to be in the right spot. So that's your front door. Let's move on to work on a different type of door. I'm going to go up to the bathroom area here. Now the door that goes into the bathroom is not the single raised panel, obviously, but back to the list I will see that there is a single flush. So most of your interior standard doors are going to be this particular single flush door. As we've done in other projects, wherever we can fit a 36-inch door, let's go ahead and do that. If you find that a 36-inch door doesn't fit with maybe like a 3-inch area for the door jamb on either side, then obviously you need to jump to the 34-inch. Also, you notice the two different heights, the 84-inch and the 80-inch. Standard door height within residential work is a 6'8" door, which is the 80-inch. So we'll use the 36 by 80 in this case. And I can come over here and drop that door in. Now I'll also point out, and this works with the walls as well, that if I click on this door, I've already said, well, you can change the dimension here. Another great editing tool is being able to just use the arrow keys to tap. And you'll see that in this case, each time I hit an arrow key, it's moving that door in a 1-inch increment. Now that increment will change depending on the level of zoom, so that if I zoom in real close, take a look at the 4'2" there, and if I hit the arrow key once, now it only changed a 1/4 of an inch. So it does vary based upon the level of zoom. Let's take a look at the bifold door that goes to this closet. If I go back to my door command and go to the properties pull down, I'm looking for some type of bifold door, and you'll notice we don't see it. It's not there. So now I need to go to the next level of options, I guess, for doors, and in many cases other components do the same thing. If it's not listed in the properties pull down, I'll jump to the load family. If I click load family, it will bring up the U.S. Imperial Library, and here you'll see a variety of folders with a lot of content broken down by area, and specifically I'm looking for the doors folder. So I'll go ahead into the doors folder, and right at the top you'll see a bifold 2 panel. There's also a bifold 4 panel, which I don't need in this case, but it might be something that you could use in another project. So bifold 2 panel, I'll go ahead and click open, and the door shows up in my properties panel. Now it does actually bring in multiple sizes, and so perhaps the 36 by 80 here again is the door that I'm going to try to use, and I'll go ahead and place that within that section. Now I need to leave a little bit of a door jamb, and I also want the door to go the other direction. So there's my horizontal arrows. I'll click that, and I can use my modify tool to go ahead and pull that door out just a little bit from the corner. We also have excuse me, an opening here that is not necessarily a door. It's just an opening, but we want to go ahead and take a look at how to add these. We used to have to add these a little differently than we do now, but you know, if you jump to component, which we haven't used yet and we'll use a whole lot more in the future, but to add that opening, I'm going to go ahead and go to component, and I know right away that opening is actually loaded through the load family. And then if I scroll down, there'll be openings. and I'm looking for the passage opening cased for this one. There's another opening that goes from the hallway into the great room. For that one, you might want to look at the elliptical arch. And I'll go ahead and add the cased opening. Now in this case, again, you got a really tight space there. Really small bathroom. A 36-inch opening probably is not going to work. I'm going to try... I'm actually going to go to 30-inch by 80, and I know that's really small, but because we need to fit a counter in there for our sink, we need to leave a little extra space. So I'll go ahead and place that opening, and if I find that once I place the counter later on I can go with a bigger opening, I can come back and make that change. So another type of door that I need to add is the garage door. And this one's a little more complicated than some of the doors we've done already. But in this case, the plan calls for a 16-foot by 7-foot overhead garage door. Unfortunately, Revit doesn't by default give us that door. So we actually need to create that door. So in order to do that, I'm going to jump up to the door icon once again. And we know that it's not listed in the properties panel. So as we've said, we'll go to the load family and look for doors once again. In this case, they don't actually call it a garage door. They call it an overhead sectional door is the door that we're looking for. If I double click on that, it will load into the project, but you'll notice that it's an 8-foot by 6-foot 6 door, so not the 16-foot by 7-foot door that we need. I'm going to go ahead and place that door, and again take a look at the blue measurements. 9-foot by 9-foot, 9-foot 9 by 9-foot 9. I'll go ahead and click that to place the door, and I need to edit the door. I need to make it larger. So in order to do that, I'll use my modify. I'll select the door, and you'll see edit type. I can go and edit the type of this door. Now, I could make the change right here. There's the height, there's the width. However, the door would still be called 8-foot by 6-foot 6. Not what I want to do. Instead, I'm going to duplicate, and I recommend that you do this for pretty much every change you make to a component, whether it's a door, a window, or other various fixtures. You always want to make a duplicate and then make the change. So I'll change to 16 foot by 7 foot, click OK. Understand though that that's only the name of the door. That did not change the actual dimensions. So I need to make that change here. For the height is 7 foot and the width is 16 foot. I'll click OK, and now that door is opened up and I have the garage door that I need. We haven't done this for a bit, just I don't know whether you've looked yourself at some point, but if you haven't done so lately, be a good time to go ahead and take a look at the default 3D view and kind of see where you're at, your progress. You can see the garage door, you can see the front door. Remember, holding down the shift key and then holding down the wheel allows you to orbit around. You can rotate up and look inside. You can see those other doors that we've placed in there. And if you'd like, you can also change the visual style. This icon down at the bottom of your screen, just to the right of the scale, allows you to change to shaded perhaps, and adds a little bit of color. So far all we have are gray walls, and that'll change in the future, but gives you a little bit different look than what we were seeing before. So I'm going to stop at this point. I'll let you work, and I also want to then move on to windows. Very similar to doors, but we'll just spend a little bit of time on windows next. Let's take a look now at adding our windows. And there's a few different types of windows that you'll see on the plan. If you want to use the exact same window that's shown, it's a triple casement window, and I'll show you how to find that. But I will tell you that if you'd like to play around a little bit with the window style, you're welcome to do that. You've got a 6-foot opening for most of the windows. There's a 6-foot window here, one back here, and also in the master bedroom, and then over here in bedroom 2. So all of those are the same type of window. Sorry, there's one more here in the dining room. And you're welcome again to play around with that window opening. Choose your own window styles if you'd like, but I'll show you a couple different ways to add windows. The first window that you can add, when you go to the window icon under architecture, you'll see that there's a few different windows that are shown here. There's a casement with trim, a double hung with trim, and a fixed with trim. A fixed with trim would be like a picture window. Perhaps you might want to use something like that in the great room rather than the casement with trim window. This casement with trim is only a single casement, so it's not necessarily what we'd want to use for these. You also have a double hung that you could try to use in the bathroom area. Up in the master bath area above the toilet, there's a window in there. But the windows add basically the same way that the doors do. For instance, if I did want to go ahead and use maybe a 16 by 24 window here, just a small window, I can go ahead and drop this in to that location, and again, I can come back and adjust the location if it's not exactly where I need it to be by clicking on the dimension and changing it that way, or I could use the arrow keys to tap it around a little bit. But let me show you how to get to that triple casement with trim. With the doors, when we didn't see the particular door that we wanted in the properties pull down, we would jump to load family. And in this case, there are many windows available in the Imperial Library. You can see all of them listed here. But even still, with all of these different windows available, you still don't see the triple casement with trim. So I want to show you that there's another level. I talked about the different levels of components as far as where to find them. So again, the first level is from the properties panel. The second level is from the load family. If you still don't find what you're looking for, you can actually jump to insert, the insert tab, and you'll see then a little search box, type box here that you can enter in for Autodesk Seek. So I'm going to type in, triple casement, and then go ahead and hit enter. And here is the Autodesk Seek website that opened up, showing me actually two different types of triple casement windows, one with trim and one without. And in this case, I'm going to use the one with trim. Just to give you a quick rundown on Autodesk Seek. Autodesk created this website as kind of a warehouse. In SketchUp, there's the 3D warehouse. Well, with Autodesk, they use Autodesk Seek. You can use it in AutoCAD to find other components, fixtures, that type of thing. And in this case, they have Revit files as well. A lot of companies have added their own personal products to it that you can go in and grab the model files or the families for those particular products. It's a nice feature that Autodesk provides to us as users. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the casement with trim. I'm going to use the most recent version, the 2010 version, and then I'm going to download that to local. I do need to accept their terms, and then it will load that file. So with that loaded like that, I'm going to jump back into Revit and then see if I can find that file. There's a casement triple with trim. So I'll go ahead and open that, and it will open all by itself as its own family file. It's its standalone file. But in the top right corner, you'll see the option to load into project. If I click that, it will load that family into this project. And so I'm going to place one here. I can place one over here. And again, you notice I'm just dropping them relatively close to where I think they need to be. I know that the measurements are not exact, but I can come back and adjust those later. Now, I want to point something out here, because more than likely this is going to happen to somebody at some point. You'll notice that I only have my project browser here. My properties panel disappeared. I'm never quite sure why this happens, but to bring it back, I can jump to the View tab. And far right, you're going to see User Interface. If I select that, here you see what gives me the options of what panels to have open. In this case, I'd like to have the Properties panel, and there it comes back. So just to jump real quick to the 3D view, you can see those windows. And again, I realize I didn't necessarily check the dimensions of the locations of those, but I went ahead and placed those in. I will show you this though. When you go to the 3D view, sometimes you realize some of the mistakes that have been made, and they're not something that mistakes that necessarily a user does intentionally or anything like that, but that window actually came in too low. And so if I click on the window, I can come back and say, well, here's the head height under the Properties panel. It shows me the head height, and the standard head height should be 6'8". So I can move that window up to where it needs to be. However, you will notice that there might be an issue that the window actually disappears in your floor plan view because of the size of the window. It's a really small window. So a couple things just to think about. If you wanted to jump to a 48-inch window on that, then it would show back up probably. Maybe. Actually, I probably need to lower the head height back then. So you could put a taller window in like that, although I don't think that's necessarily the solution in this case, because that window is right over the toilet. So I would rather have the 24-inch window in that location. So that pretty much covers all the windows. There are some adjustments again that need to be made. And taking a look at this, we got a pretty good start.